Hello everybody, so here we are looking forward to the final game of the almost mythically endless 2019-2020 season. PSG are the 41st different team to appear in a European Cup or Champions League final, but they face a team who are looking to record their 21st victory in a row and land another treble. Bayern need just 4 more goals to set a new seasonal record in the Champions League, and after beating Barcelona 8-2, they look more than capable of doing that. But they also look very vulnerable at the back, and that defence now has to face the might of Neymar, Mbappe and Di Maria. So it could be a showpiece final for the ages, and joining me here to point out a few tactical trends that you can look out for during the match on Sunday night are Tom Reynolds, Kevin Chroust and Ben Mackriell. Tom's going to start, so over to you.
Thanks, Dunk. You spoke about the vulnerability of Bayern Munich at the back, and that's something I'm going to highlight here. So this game could potentially be won in the transition. And what I've done here is I've gone back to a game that was played in May in the Bundesliga, Dortmund versus Munich. And the reason I've chosen this game is I'm trying to recreate the situation as to what might happen on Sunday. So obviously we have Jadon Sancho, Thorgan Hazard on one wing. They have the ability to, they're comfortable in possession. They can isolate fullbacks and run at them. And also we know that they're very deadly on the counter-attack. So let's take a look. So the reason I've chosen this game as well is the back four could be similar to what we're going to see on Sunday. So we've got Alphonso Davies at left back, Jerome Boateng and David Alaba playing as centre backs. And obviously we're not too sure who Hansi Flick's going to play at right back yet, but Pavard played in this game, but obviously it has been Kimmich and they've been rotating. So let's just take a look. So I've switched on roles, which obviously explained the amount of time that a player plays in each position. So we obviously, with average position, you sometimes see wingers crossing over and you see their average position be in the middle of the pitch, whereas this sorts out that problem and it's very dynamic. So I'm going to have a look at how Bayern Munich defend. I'm going to select a phase because I want to understand how they react to this situation. And I'm going to highlight where the ball is. So I'm just going to select Dortmund having the ball in their half. So we can just see how the shape changes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the deepest defender. We can already see it, but let's just quantify it. We can see that Boateng and Alaba here are very high up the pitch, almost towards the halfway line. Obviously, dominate possession, so you'd expect a lot of players to be high up the pitch. But we can see there's 47 metres from goal. And what this means is that obviously there's a lot of space in behind. And we know with Di Maria, we know with the pace of Mbappe and Neymar, this is something that they can really utilise. Especially with, I thought Paredes was really good in the semi-final. Progressive in his passing. He has a really good passing range. And this is something that where they can start attacks here. Thiago Silva and Kimpembe are really capable of doing the same thing too. So hitting them on the counter-attack, PSG, this might something that they might want to do. And we can even see that obviously transition is something where the formation is a little bit skewed because it doesn't happen that often in a game. And also there's not a set shape. But we can just see how, when it does happen, the fullbacks and the centre-backs are really high up the pitch, creating even more space in behind. So obviously something that doesn't happen often, but when it does, there's even more space to play and turn the defenders to face their own goal, which obviously, as any footballer, is not the way you want to be facing to defend.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'm going to take your Bayern high line and I'm going to raise you that deadly PSG front four. We know that, Bayern are probably going to dominate possession, as you said. And so the ability for PSG to really exploit that space in behind the back four and try and get those runners in behind, try and play on the shoulder of Boateng and Alaba, and try and exploit the space that is undoubtedly going to be left by Alphonso Davies running down that left-hand side. Now, we saw in the last couple of games when he was faced with a long recovery run, he didn't have too many problems. But I'm looking forward to seeing a 50-metre sprint between Mbappe and Davies down one of those channels on Sunday night. So to have a look at how PSG could exploit that situation, I've also looked at a game in the last 16 where PSG played the same opponents in Borussia Dortmund. This was the second leg. And again, looking at how they could exploit in those really fast tempo situations. How are they going to get the ball quickly up the pitch and exploit that space in behind? And immediately we can see from the game against Dortmund that on the left-hand side of the pitch, that's where they want to move the ball into space. We can see Neymar on the left-hand side. In this game, it was Sarabia with Mbappe coming on. There was also Cavani playing, but obviously we'll expect it to be a Neymar and Mbappe with Di Maria in those positions. Potentially Icardi to come on late if they need a goal. But it is that left-hand side of the pitch, and we can see how high up the pitch Bernat is, really trying to push on and move the ball and create those 1-2 situations around the fullback. But if we then also look at where Dortmund were set up, we can really see how close those front four were to getting in between the Dortmund centre-backs and full-backs, trying to play on the shoulder and trying to look for those runs in behind with the support of players like Di Maria coming from a little bit deeper. But obviously, the key for PSG is not to leave too big a gap. We know how quickly Bayern like to win back possession. And so in this game, Paredes and Idrissa Gueye were key to kind of locking the door behind and really trying to protect any turnovers. We're definitely going to see Marquinhos do that in this game. Verratti could come in as well, played towards the end of that semi-final. So we do want to see PSG trying to exploit that space and trying to get in behind, but they're going to have to shut the door because we know how lethal Bayern can be when they turn the ball back over.
So as always, I guess, what you're doing without the ball is more important than, almost as important as what you're doing with the ball. Getting that ball back is going to be basically who can do that best is going to sort of, shape the story of the final. Ben, you're going to look a bit deeper on how Bayern are going to do that.
Yeah, definitely, Duncan. I think that is really going to be the key to this game. It is going to be what the two teams do out of possession. And I think Bayern are well known now for how aggressively they press and how aggressively they look to win back the ball. And these stats really stood out for me in trying to quantify that. This season, they've averaged 45 starts in winning back the ball and starting their possessions in the attacking third. That's second behind City. And we know how aggressively City like to press and win those ball back in high areas, and Bayern are just behind them. But what's interesting with Bayern is they don't then look to very quickly move the ball towards goal. They're very patient. They'll move the ball into space and try and regain that possession. And again, they're second behind Liverpool in the Champions League this season in the time they spend in possession, nearly 13 seconds of time in possession. So they're a patient team when they're in possession, but they're incredibly aggressive in pressing when they lose the ball. And the stat that really stood out was the fact that they're trying to win back the ball within 6 seconds, and they're doing that 19.4 times a game. So they're not content when they lose the ball just to sit back. They're going to go back and win the ball back and really try and hunt in packs. And that's going to be key to kind of stunting PSG's counterattacks, is trying to win back the ball straight away. So what's going to be really key for PSG is how they move the ball away from that pressure. When they are able to get the ball back off the likes of Thiago and Kimmich, they're going to have to keep it, and they're going to have to move the ball away from those packs of Bayern players trying to win the ball back quickly. And so we can take a look at how PSG have managed to do that this season across both Liga and the Champions League when they've been under high pressure, when players on the ball have been hunted down, have been pressed by defenders and by midfielders. We can use our tracking data and our pressure metrics to be able to identify in those high pressure situations when they're really up against it and they're having to move the ball away into space, how they've managed to do that. And because of that pressure, those passes are going to be much more difficult to complete. So using our expected passes model, we can see that those passes that are under 60% likelihood of being completed, how they've managed to use those effectively and move the ball away from that pressure. So if we add our pressure halos to show where those areas of pressures were and at what point they were put under that pressure, we can see that, again, left side dominant. They're trying to move the ball through Bernat, as we talked about before. He's moving up really high up the pitch as an outlet. And when they're under that pressure from Bayern, they're going to want to get him into space, move the ball through those wide channels where Mbappe and Di Maria and Neymar are floating around. But what is really interesting is that once they're in those wide areas, they're looking to get the ball back inside around the box and attack the centre of the box. As we can see here, despite the pressure that they're under, all these red halos here, they're still able to play in tight spaces and move the ball through the centre of the box. And if we think back to the Barca game, in those first 20 minutes where Barca did actually have good areas of possession, particularly around the box, Suarez, Messi were able to kind of put Boateng under pressure 1v1. There was a couple of instances where he managed to trip over his feet as Suarez was moving the ball around him. So you can imagine with Neymar's box of tricks that he'll be looking to do the same thing against Jerome Boateng.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, that's really enlightening seeing that on the screen like that. I mean, it kind of backs up what we've seen in games, but it shows how good they are in tight spaces. And interesting, you point out Bernat as well. He's actually got a strange record where he scored more goals in the Champions League. Obviously, he scored in the semi than he has in league football. Very much the sort of Lucas Podolski style odd record of PSG. But yeah, obviously one man who is ridiculously consistent, never seems to age or change the way he plays the game, but is highly effective, is Thomas Müller. And Tom, you're going to have a look at how he's going to potentially influence the final.
Yeah, if we take a look at the influence of Thomas Müller here using the shape analysis. So this is Bayern Munich's most common shape this season. Obviously, we know that we have the four at the back, we have the two midfielders that protect the back line, and then we have four very attacking players. Obviously, being high in possession, we know that they like to get high up the pitch. But let's have a look at the influence of Thomas Müller throughout their system. We know that he likes to line up alongside Lewandowski, obviously not as high. He likes to sort of drop in behind and provide that outlet for players and in the number 10 role. But he has this innate ability to be able to pick up the ball and bring other people into possession. But it's also his work off the ball that is very that's almost goes unnoticed sometimes. So he drops in behind, obviously creating space and allowing him other players to operate in the half space. If we look at Thomas Müller in possession, we can see how much of a threat he actually creates and brings to Bayern Munich's system. So he's the highest in possession value, which is increasing the likelihood of a goal being scored at the end of their possessions and breaks it down into every action on the field. So we're looking at regains, we're looking at tackles, we're also looking at progressive passing and progressive dribbling. And he's a multifaceted player. He can do all of these. So if we just click into the patterns and we'll understand that influence, I obviously spoke about him out of possession, but let's have a look at him in possession. So I'm looking at Bayern Munich up in the final third in sustained threat. I've clicked Thomas Müller being involved, and we can just see, similar to what Ben spoke about, is Bayern Munich are also a team that like to try and create high XG chances. So they're working the ball into the box. We can see via the half space here. I just want to click into this one and just show their ability to be able to play in tight areas. So this is looking at combination play. Obviously, as they win the ball back high up the pitch, they like to play in tight areas and be able to break lines and be able to break other teams down to create high possession chances in the middle of the pitch, right in front of the goal.
Cheers, Tom. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, isn't it, that, for all their differences, the setups are quite similar, both teams with these incredibly attacking front fours. And it doesn't seem that likely, but I guess there's an outside chance that they could cancel each other out, especially as it's a final. In which case, set pieces could become more important than we maybe have thought, which is a good point to bring in Kevin, who's been having a look at how both teams utilise those.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan. And as we saw, both of these teams scored from set pieces in the semis. For Bayern, it was Kimmich delivering to Lewandowski, and that came from the right side. And we're going to see here is most of their opportunities and their goals on set pieces, whether that be corners or free kicks, come from the right side. So right now we're looking at corner kicks that are delivered from the left. So we're looking at the Bundesliga and Champions League combined here, 164 attempts resulting in 1 goal. So Kimmich, being a player who's on the right pretty consistently, he's delivering these as in-swingers. So we see that it's resulting in 79 of those opportunities that are delivered into the 6. And that's just not how Bayern are scoring on set pieces. If we switch over to the right, however, we see that more of those opportunities, they're coming a little farther out from the keeper, and they're targeting kind of the more the front of the box. Now, we've still got 162 attempts, resulting in 69 shots and 7 goals. So let's just focus on the goals here. Again, corner kicks from the right. We look and we see of these 7, Kimmich took 6. And they're arriving in different locations in the box, but this is kind of that main spot. And from here, it's one thing to understand that, okay, Kimmich is delivering these outswingers, but we want to know who's really involved in these. Okay, so if we go back to all types, we'll take a look at 2 players who tend to be involved, and no surprise, we're going to look at Lewandowski, and then we're going to look at Müller. So we see that of those 7 goals, they were involved in 4 of them. And we can go a bit deeper here by looking at where they line up and ultimately the running patterns that they have on these. So if we look at generally where they line up, this is Müller and this is Lewandowski. Now we can look at the individual instances as well. So Müller in yellow, Lewandowski in green. So we see that Lewandowski is lining up a bit more centrally. Müller's a bit more on the front post and a bit more advanced. Now we want to look at the running patterns. So if we look at Lewandowski, we see that he's making that central run, breaking toward the front post at first, and then cutting back centrally a little bit. How about Müller? It's a shorter pattern, and he's breaking quickly to the front post, but then taking almost a 90-degree turn and going centrally. So if we add Lewandowski's running patterns on top of this, we can see how that might really be essentially throwing a pick and getting in the way for Lewandowski. So if we clear all these filters now and we take a look at free kicks really quickly, we see they've got 567 attempts resulting in 5 goals. Again, we're just going to look at the goals here. And we've got taken from and delivered to. So when we dive into those goals, we're seeing that they're coming from the right side. And if you saw the semi, the goal that they scored with Lewandowski on the end of that delivery from Kimmich, it was essentially a corner down here in this zone. Before we switch over to PSG, we'll take a quick look at Bayern defending on corners and set pieces. So we're looking at Bundesliga and Champions League together here. Corners from the left side, they're not giving anything up. If we look at corners from the right side, 6 goals. They also don't allow much from free kicks. So of the 523 attempts, that has yet to yield a goal for opposition. So what we want to focus on is probably those right side corners. And we see that a lot of the time the opposition is targeting the front of the box, and that holds true on goals as well. All 6 of those goals that Bayern's opposition have scored have gone to the front of the box, 3 to the front post, and 3 a little deeper in the box. So let's switch over to PSG, and that's definitely something that they can work with Di Maria delivering from those right side corners. So if we look at PSG's corners, at first we're looking at the left side deliveries. And a lot of these are delivered short, but most of those are from Neymar. So Neymar and Di Maria kind of split these on the left side, and they're not quite as efficient as they are on the right. So if we click over to the right, and then we're looking at Di Maria delivering these almost exclusively, they're a little more efficient, 5 goals from 102 attempts. And then we can look in to see where these goals are coming from, and all of them are coming from inside the 6. This makes sense with those being in-swinging corner kicks, right? Now, if we switch over to free kicks, we can see that their goals are actually coming from more so on the left side. And we saw this in the semis with Di Maria serving that ball into just kind of the edge of the 6 for Marquinhos. And that wasn't the first time that happened. That was this goal with this delivery where Marquinhos was kind of right here on the line between these 2 zones and headed it to the back post. But that also happened here. And this was a similar setup. This was in a league match against Bordeaux. And they had Neymar and Di Maria lining up over the ball, Neymar for a right-footed delivery, Di Maria for that left-footed delivery. And if we see who was on the end of that, It was also Marquinhos. So what did that running pattern look like? He lined up in a similar spot. He made that similar run. And Di Maria is just so good at putting that ball with his left foot kind of outswinging just out of the keeper's reach to the edge of the six, that they scored a similar goal. This one wasn't nearly as pretty. It was kind of off Marquinhos' shoulder, not a slick header that he directed to the back bar, but just as effective.
Thanks, Kev. That was really interesting. I think my big takeaway there is if Joe Jacobson ever has to choose between Bayern and PSG for a transfer, he should probably go to PSG because their corner routine seemed to fit his profile a bit better. But that's enough about Wickham. This is a huge game. I think, this season has taken a long time to get to this point with a lot of stops and starts. But, we've been left with possibly a dream Champions League final, which I think everyone is very excited about. Some of the best players, both current and up and coming, are going to be on show in this game, and it really does feel like a new era is dawning in football. So I hope this video and all the videos we've done on the Champions League in the last week or so have been, helped you understand a few extra elements of the game and how the teams approach the match. And let's hope that it's a classic final. And we'll be back soon with some new analysis on the new 2020-21 season. So until then, thanks from all of us, and speak to you soon.